bridge events, past events.
All right.
Okay.
So we start?
I think can we wait for another 5 minutes because
Absolutely.
our fellow Indonesian are notoriously known for being late. I'm not proud to say that.
It's worldwide.
You're not alone, that's for sure.
So Kathleen, what time is it where you are now?
8 o'clock precisely.
Oh, okay. And
PM.
or 8, same. Come on in, folks.
Oh, it's wonderful to see students coming into the classroom.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Morning, Susi. Good morning. Thank you, Susi, for your share information. You will see my students are coming in a minute, swarming this Zoom meeting.
Thank you.
We're from Universitas Negeri Semarang. Here's Miss Diamond, Mr. Donatali, and Miss Wei.
We thank you. We thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
But is here also graduated from the United States. We were the same batch for
Yes.
award. So
Yeah.
we see each other again here.
Yes. Thank you.
Wonderful.
It's been a while, years ago. Yeah. Susie is amazing. Is an amazing colleague. So I'm honored. Thank you very much.
But did you also go to Kent?
No, I went to Southern Illinois University, Carbondale.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
It's not that far from Kent, right? I mean, it's within.
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I was in Iowa 2007 to 2013.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. Most of the time during the COVID time, I was together with my husband in the Boston area because he was working with a biotechnology company. It was a hard time when he needs to be in a front.
All right.
Yeah,
Sure.
front person. His and his company's working on accelerating PCR and all the vaccines and stuff. And so it was hard, but glad we made it. Yeah.
Right.
So true.
I'm glad to.
Yes, that's true. We're very blessed.
You guys sit in the front. Come on.
You sit in front. It's okay.
Priscilla.
While students are sitting, I'm going to step up for about 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
All right, right. Get sini.
This is amazing. It's very exciting for us. So many students, so many students.
Right, we have over 440 students in our program.
Oh, I hope they're not all coming tonight. You'll make me nervous.
Well, some of them are having some classes, so some of them will not be participating, but we will share the video to them later.
Yes, yes. And then we have 51 on Zoom.
Right, right. From different places, including those from University Negeri Semarang.
Yeah.
So Semarang is a different state.
Yeah. I had I have 6 class and each class is almost 50. So if all of them came, then
Wow.
around 300 will swarm this place.
No.
Okay. Mas-
You're breaking all of our records.
Right. This is my first experience with ALC Bridge, so I will be very happy to learn from all of you. And thank you, Upi. We love you, Upi. UNES loves you.
We are in this together, right?
Yes. Universitas Negeri Semarang always have this collaboration with UPI, so it's amazing.
Well, I think I said earlier before you came on, Petra, that this is ALC Bridge's international debut.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yay. I'm glad. Thank you, Susi. I love you more then for inviting. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
So I think the students are here. I know that this is not exactly on time, but I hope that the schedule that I send you can be adjusted accordingly. So
Yes, it can.
just a moment. Okay, shall we start? Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and good evening to prestigious speakers from United States. It's at night there. So welcome to the webinar on how to start a career in the language industry. My name is Susi Rakhmawati, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator today. Thank you for joining us. An insightful webinar program lined up for you with expert speakers who will share valuable insights on career in language industries, translation, interpreting, and localization. Before we dive in, let's go over a few housekeeping items. The session will last approximately 90 minutes with time for Q&A at the end. Feel free to type your questions in the Q&A box throughout the presentations, and we will address as many as we can during the Q&A session. We're recording this webinar, and we will share the recording with you in the ALC Bridge website, along with any additional resources. So briefly on the schedule, so we will start the webinar by me explaining, and then later we will have Pa Eri Kurniawan, who is the English Language and Literature Chair, to deliver his welcoming speech. And then later I will say a few words too to introduce the speakers and their bios. And we will start with Kathleen Diamonds, and then Giovanni Donatelli, and then Winnie A. to present their presentations on this topic of the webinar today. And for about like 1 hour, we will have around 25 minutes for questions and answer session. So you can post the question in the chat, or you can ask question verbally. Now, to start our event, I'd like to invite our Chair of English Language and Literature Program, Eri Kurniawan, PhD, who is a professor of linguistics at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. He will be delivering the opening remark to set the stage for today's discussion. Pak Eri, thank you for joining us today. The time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone here in Indonesia, and good evening to Giovanni and Kathleen, and good afternoon to Winnie. So we are all here today to have the first of its kind, especially in our program, international webinar with our partner, ALC. I'm sorry to claim that you are my partner.
No, you,
Make that the
with pleasure.
As I mentioned earlier, this is the first of its kind, our program, and I look forward to further collaboration with ALC Bridge. I would like to thank Giovanni and then Kathleen and Winnie for being here with us today and for willingly sharing your insights, your expertise, your experiences with respect to how you all deal with language, especially in the industrial world. And on behalf of the language and English language and literature program, I'd like to extend our greatest gratitude to you all and to all participants who are here offline and online, and to our partner, Ibu Petra, and the rest of the students from Universitas Negeri Semarang. And so without further delay, I'd like to open this webinar. Again, thank you all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. Thank you, Pak Eri, for the opening the webinar. And now let me introduce our three main speakers for today's webinar. Our first speaker is Kathleen K. Diamond, MA, a principal consultant who brings extensive experience in language services industry. Kathleen Diamond is a consultant, entrepreneur, and business leader in the language services industry. In 1979, she founded Language Learning Enterprises, Inc., or LLE, a full-service language company based in Washington, D.C. She is recognized as an early pioneer in telephone interpreting, launching LLE Link in the 1990s. Kathleen volunteers her time advocating for the importance and relevance of language services as a member of the Stakeholder Assembly of Interpreting, SAFE AI, and as former chair, now member at large of ASTM F43, Language Services and Product. She represents the USA through the American National Standard Institute to ISO, the International Standardizations Organization for Translation, Interpreting, and Related Technology, or ISO TC 37 ST5 WG4, and is a charter member of the Association of Language Companies. She is also a member of good standing of ATA, American Translator Association. In 2018, Kathleen became the founding chair of ALC Bridge, an initiative launched to connect language services company to universities for the purpose of preparing language students for careers in the language industry. She earned her MA and BA from the University of Florida and is an alumna of IES abroad, Nantes, France. And then our second speaker is Giovanni Donatelli, a founder of the Language Group, an award-winning international language services corporation based in Virginia Beach, Virginia, with additional offices in Hamburg, Germany. Giovanni founded the company in 1999 and is now listed as one of the leading language services companies in the world. Giovanni is an active participant in the language services industry, having served on industry boards for the Association of Language Companies, ALC, and the Joint National Council for Language. A native of Pescara, Italy, Mr. Donatelli received his MBA from the College of William and Mary and received his BS in Finance from Virginia Tech. Last but not least, we have Winnie He, She has worn many different hats in the language industry: language instructor, translator, interpreter, professors of interpretation, senior executive and consultant for language services companies, and is currently career advisor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, California. In her business career, she led teams in operations, sales, marketing, international expansion, merger and acquisition, as well as language technology. She has established and managed businesses in the US, Latin America, Canada, UK, and China. As an educator, she aims to connect language students with the abundance of career opportunities in the language industry and to advocate for curriculum innovation in line with future talent needs. She is a board member and secretary of the board for California Healthcare Interpreting Association and a committee member of the LC Bridge. All right, each speaker will present for about 10 minutes to 20 minutes, so 10 minutes for you, Kathleen, and 20 minutes each for Gio and Winnie. Then we will open the floor for questions. Kathleen, Gio, and Winnie, the time is yours.
Well, I'm just breathless. I apologize, dear Susie, for all of those acronyms that we gave you, I gave you in particular. But thank you very much for that kind and thorough introduction. It is with great pleasure and tremendous honor that we sit before you tonight and present our program. I'm excited that this is indeed our international debut. I'm excited by the number of attendees, and yes, I am a bit nervous. Normally we speak to small audiences, so this is fabulous. I have traveled a great deal in my life, but I've never been to Indonesia. So now I have to go to Jakarta, I have to come to Java, and I have to go to Bali, and I have to get to know all of you students in the classroom to see how you're doing with your careers in language. So it is my pleasure and my joy and great honor to present the concept of what it is that we're going to talk about tonight. What the heck is ALC Bridge? If you'll permit, I will share my screen and we'll take a look and see what, let's see, where is it? Share. We share and then we start from the beginning and we do a slide show. Hold on a minute. Here it is. And from the beginning, here we go. So let me just, I'm so excited and I'm, as I said, quite nervous. So what is ALC Bridge? Well, it's a platform. It's a platform that's the only platform that was totally designed for employers who are seeking skilled language talent, for educators to develop practical, skill-based language courses, and for career seekers, you, the students, language to identify and to explore and accept jobs in the language services industry. And I'd like to take a quick moment here to give you some background. How is it that some people got together and came up with this idea? We need a platform like this. Simple. It was some members of ALC, the Association of Language Companies, thinking we need good talent to come and work in our companies. How can we find them? And I'm sitting in the room and I'm thinking, well, we have to go to the classroom. We have to go into the classroom to see the students and let them know that we have jobs, we have internships, we have opportunities for them. Well, my colleagues among the language companies said, well, that's a good idea. So here we are. And that's how I get to be the chair. It was kind of a concept I thought we could put together. And I immediately put together a committee. And that's what we're going to show you tonight, how it works. So the things that it does for you is to give you all sorts of resources, basically. So let's move along here and see what it looks like. I've got to get this out of my way here, though. It's down in my way. So who are the ALC member companies? They represent large companies in our industry, and they also represent small companies and things in between. They are companies mainly owned and run by individuals and people that have either founded the companies or bought the companies or created the companies. And there's a few of the icons that you see here. The Association of Language Companies is quite small. We have 186 members in the United States. We have several, I guess there's several more, many more actually, that are also across the country, across the world, that are members of ALC. I put this slide in because I thought, well, it's interesting to see, well, where are language service companies in general across the globe? Most of them, as you can see, are in North America. Next is in Europe. But then I thought it's interesting that Asia has quite a few language service companies as well. Who are the academic partners? So if you're going to form a bridge and you're going to have the language companies that have the jobs, you need to talk to the academic partners who have the students. And I'm going to have to include the logo of your university in the next time I present this slide, I promise. So if you send me the logo, I will make sure that it's here on our screen for the next presentation. But you can see it's across the country, different large universities and some smaller ones too. And so where are the jobs? We have the companies and we have the academic partners. Where are the jobs? This is a very interesting graphic that was created by one of our ALC Bridge committee members, and we call it the peaks, the career paths in language services, the peaks. It's somewhat difficult for you to see, but basically what we're saying in this graphic is it's not just interpreters, translators, teachers, localizers that our industry seeks. It's all these other positions and jobs and experiences that we need. Culture trainers, editors, translators, chief translators, engineering production people, international product managers, QA managers, liaison escort interpreters, multilingual desktop publishing specialists, voice talent, and on and on and on. And when you hear Gio and Winnie speak to you, you'll get even more details about this image and how full and exciting this language services industry is when it comes to jobs and opportunities for you students. So what I would like you to do is to, after you finished your class today and you've had a little bit of a part of your day, visit our website. Visit our website. The homepage you go to, you'll be able to see our members and you'll be able to see who's active in the process here. If you go to the events past webinars, you'll be able to see this recording and the recording of many other webinars that we've done with academic partners. But you're going to want to spend quite a bit of time under the resources for career seekers. That's where you'll go to see opportunities, not only for jobs and internships, but also tools that you might need to prepare yourself to come into our industry. All sorts of resources are available. Under resources for employers, we have internship in a box, and that helps the companies prepare internships to be able to receive you. And we are obviously a global organization. It doesn't matter where you are, you can come to us any time of day using technology. The job board is where the companies post their opportunities and students can come in and take a look and see what's available. And so the last part that I would want you to do is to join Bridge. as academic partners, come in and participate with us to the extent that you are interested in so doing. And I think that that is probably my 10 minutes. And I will be here, of course, for the whole session. I'm anxious to hear your questions, and I might have some questions for you as well. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go back to the classroom so that I can see you again. And I think the next speaker is going to be Gio. So Gio, are you ready?
I'm absolutely ready. And my goal is to make sure when we are done today, all three of us, to make sure every single attendee has something they can take away. Kathleen has already showed you some nice, ample resources. You can start your research down the path of language, a professional language career. And myself and Winnie will add to that. So you will be armed with some easy, actionable items. And we're excited to be sharing this information. So yes, I'm ready. Let's get started. All right. So with that, I will share my screen. And although Susi has introduced me already, I would like to do a similar introduction. I'll cover some of the items she addressed just to establish my background, and I'll jump into some of my talking points. So with that, I will start sharing my screen. I always forget to hit the actual share button. So, whoops, I am the founder of the language group. I started the company in 1999. And over the course of 25 years, we have also opened an office. Well, not opened. We have acquired a company in Germany called English Business. They're in Hamburg, Germany, and their systems are integrated with ours. Once we acquired them, we integrated their systems with us, and they work under our umbrella. And then we also have an online school called the Virginia Institute of Interpreting, which is more of a vocational school, which means that someone may have the linguistic skills, but don't have any professional experience interpreting, but they would like to enter that profession. These are some entry-level trainings that allow applicants to at least enter the market and start interpreting at what we call the community level. And once they start interpreting and they enjoy the profession, then we point them towards more robust educational partners, such as the partners you saw on the screen earlier from Kathleen's slide, or of course, Middlebury is considered the crown jewel of our profession and the education they could receive. So, but the Virginia Institute of Interpreting, it was designed to help bilingual individuals enter the marketplace. So with that, about myself, I am an immigrant. I would like to say I'm a reluctant immigrant because I was brought to the United States as a primary school. I was 8 years old. And so I was raised in America and the United States. And while I was growing up here, I went to school to get my undergraduate degree in finance. And then I continued to get my graduate degree in business administration. As you can see, all my education is business oriented. It is not language oriented. But because I am bilingual, I was raised in an English speaking environment, but I was raised in an Italian household. I was always gravitating towards language related interests. So when I found out about the language services industry was a professional industry, I was excited to participate. So I worked for a language services company for a little over a year in 1998, and then I left there and started my own company in 1999. Over the course of 25 years, I've served on several different industry boards, the Association of Language Companies, which is an American-based association with language companies all over the world. I served on the board for 6 years. And during that time, I was also growing my company. And in 2017, I was awarded an award as I was the top entrepreneur in my region, which is the United States has 50 states. Virginia is one of them, and I was awarded top entrepreneur in my region in 2017. And then 2018 to 22, I served on a different board, and JNCL is an organization that helps create funding from the federal government to provide funding for language education in the United States. Language education at the primary level, at the secondary level, and at the university level. So it's important that we continue letting the politicians know that language education is important and to earmark funding so these universities have money to pay professors to create language programs. So I sit on that board as one of the industry representatives to make sure that the language profession industry, not just the education industry, is properly represented. And I've served for 4 years there as well. So that's a little bit about myself. The company, some accolades we received in the last 12 months. NIMSI is an industry watchdog. They're an organization that tracks the language industry as a whole, and they rank the language group as one of the top interpreting companies in the United States. Slater is another industry watchdog, and they labeled the language group as a challenger, which basically puts us in the top 100 language companies in the world. I think we're ranked number 82 or something. The bottom left here is in the state of Virginia, we were ranked one of the best places to work. So this award is very special to me because this is not against other language companies, it's against all companies in the state of Virginia. And we're one of the best states for business in Virginia. Amazon is based here. Their second headquarters are here. We have a lot of economic growth in Virginia, and to be marked as one of the best companies to work for means that we treat our employees very well. We treat our linguists and interpreters and translators very well. And they all had to fill out a survey and to let the state know if they were happy working with us. And it was an extensive survey that they didn't need to fill out, but they did. And we're grateful to be on this list. And I think last year, 33 companies were named to this list. We were one of 33 of the thousands and thousands of companies that applied for this award. So very proud of that. And then lastly, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary just this past April. So we are one of, in those companies, such as Kathleen's company, have been in business for a long time before she decided to change her career path and sell her business. But less than 0.1% of all companies founded make it to 25 years, at least in the United States. So that is just a sense of pride. And that is, I'll talk about why that happened and why we are still surviving and thriving. So the services our company offers, which are very traditional for most language services companies, some companies tend to specialize in one or two service lines. Being in the United States, our clients would like everything from one partner. So we try to provide everything and we do everything ourselves. On-site interpreting, which you know is physical presence, is having an interpreter physically present where the interpreting is needed, whether it's at a hospital, at a school system, at a social services office, at a psychiatric center, at a prison. It doesn't matter where an interpreter is needed to be there and physically present. We offer that service all over the country of the United States. We don't do that service internationally, just in the US at the moment. Over the phone interpreting and video interpreting, we call on-demand services, which basically has interpreters sitting at monitors at their own workstations at their home, and this is all over the world, and they are receiving calls and interpreting. Whether interpreting via video or via phone, they log into our platform and they receive calls. And we do several thousand phone calls every single day. So we keep our interpreters very busy. Our next service line is translation localization, and that is the written word, whether you read it on an app, whether it's print media, whether it's software, whether it's a website, whether it's subtitling for a movie or a training video. That falls under the translation and localization department. And we do, I think last year we did about 212 different languages. So we do have openings in all these different verticals. And lastly, fluency assessments and interpreter training. I mentioned our school has interpreter training for people that are entering the industry, and that includes fluency assessments. And I'll discuss how AI is used in some of these different categories as well. So now I want to talk about the language industry as a whole, because I think it's important for US students entering the job market in the next couple of years, and you may consider language services as a viable career option for you. You need to understand how big it is compared to other industries. So I'll talk about some talking points here, first of all. The first bullet, we are a $70 billion industry worldwide, globally. That means every dollar spent on language services totals about $70 billion, 69.3. That's in 2023 last year. And within the next 4 years, we plan to grow to about $90 billion. Now, what does that mean? 90 billion US dollars. My goodness, that's a number we can't quite wrap our head around. So I like to say, as you see the title here, the largest industry you've never heard of. Well, why is that? I'm sure everyone here has listened to a song before, the music industry. If you take every single currency, every dollar, every Deutschmark, every euro, you name it, and you total every single dollar spent on music, whether it's a music ticket for a concert, whether it's your streaming subscription for music, the royalties these musicians get every time you listen to a song. You total all that worldwide, the K-pop phenomenon in Southern Korea, all the music that you hear total together is less than 30 billion, less than half of the language services industry. Everyone's heard of music, no one's heard of the language services industry, and we're more than twice the size. And we're looking to grow another roughly 20 billion, almost a third more in the next 4 years, which is an average of about almost 10%, 8 to 10% of the next each year for the next 4 years. When there's growth, means people, clients, companies, industry are buying more services. And if they're buying more because they need more, we need people to do the work. So there are more and more job opportunities out there. And I'll talk about the job opportunities in a moment. For example, translators in our industry in the United States, this is an ATA compensation survey, the American Translators Association, they regularly earn 6 figures, which means 100,000 US dollars or more per year, which is a very livable salary, a highly professional salary in the United States. In the United States, we employ 200,000 people full-time. That's 40 hours a week. Worldwide, more than 1 million professionals work in this profession. Now, this next bullet is something that might not be very familiar to you, but I'll try to explain it for now. So a majority of these professionals, these linguists, are independent contractors. I want to point that out because an independent contractor basically means you are your own boss. You're a translator, you're an interpreter, and you may be sitting at your home computer taking calls, interpreting, helping someone through a surgery or through a court case, or helping them with a psychiatric appointment. I'll focus mainly on medical, so that's what my mind goes to. But you work with that company for 30 days, you send them a bill after 30 days. But what if they're not sending you any phone calls at the moment or any calls? You can work for a second or a third company. So you may have 2 or 3 different companies you work with. And at the end of each month, you send them all a bill for the time that you've worked for them, and they all pay you, and you're responsible for your own taxes in your country. These companies you work for may be in other countries, and you may be in your home country. Well, you report your income, and then you pay your own taxes. But that's what independent contractor means. It means you're not an employee, you're an independent contractor, but you're still working with these language companies. And it's a very appealing profession for most linguists, because if they have a language combination that one company can't use 40 hours per week, well, maybe they can use you 5 to 7 hours per week or 10 hours per week. So if you have 3 companies like that, you have now fulfilled your working portfolio with opportunities from 3 different employers. You also diversify your partnerships. Therefore, if one person is slow, not giving you much work, you have other partnerships that keep you busy and keep you employed. We have a lot of partners in Southeast Asia. We have an entire team in the Philippines, for example. So there are many opportunities out there. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, our growth has been 5 to 8% per year since 2005, making it one of the fastest growing sectors of the economy. I want you to think about this, and you may have been very young when this happened, but in 2008, we had a worldwide economic crash. The language services market was still growing. 4 years ago, worldwide pandemic, and lockdown under, the language services industry kept going. I don't like to say we are recession-proof, but we are a very safe bet. where you have professional stability in this profession. So since 2005, we've been averaging 5 to 8% growth, which is incredibly fast compared to the rest of the economy. So let's talk about this. So here's a graph from 2009 to present day, and forecasting up to 2027. We were at 23 billion in 2009, and now we're at 69 billion, as I mentioned. Today, the music industry is where we were in 2011, 13 years ago. Again, to give you an idea, we're triple where we are today compared to where we were 15 years ago. So again, it's one of the fastest growing professions in the world. Now I'll talk about the actual professions. The interpreter and the translator looks to grow 24%. There'll be 24% more job openings by 2030 than there are today. Well, this is from 2020. So a 10-year span, the interpreter and translator profession is going to grow 24%, where if you take another profession like media or communication workers, they're going to grow 11%, which is still a high demand market. But if you take all occupations, every profession from blacksmith to tailor to chef, you put it all together, they're only going to grow 8% over the next, between now and 2030, whereas interpreters and translators are 3 times the growth in that profession. So many more job opportunities. So I'm going to leave the slide here for a minute. I want to talk about that because when I talk about job opportunities and professions, I want to talk about what is important to you when you have a job, when you have a profession. And I like to say that no matter what you do for a living, it has to satisfy 3 primary human goals in your psyche, in your mind. Number 1, you have to use a skill that you're good at, that you enjoy using. So for this example, if you work in language services and you happen to be using your language skills, anyone that's bilingual loves using their language skills. It's a trait that we have. When I get the chance to speak my Italiano, I just went to visit family a couple of months ago. The ability to flex those muscles is a joy because I get to use a skill I have, and it's joyful. So just using a skill you have and you use it every day is a joy. Couple that with you're helping people. The essence of language services is helping people. Let me explain. If you're translating a document or an app or a video, or you're interpreting for someone, you're actually helping one party communicate with another party where there's a language barrier. You're delivering a message, and that person that doesn't speak the native language of the original message gets some assistance. They get to benefit from your language skills. So you are actually helping something. Because I work mainly in healthcare, we're helping families, women give birth to their babies. We're helping a woman gets a cancer diagnosis, or a man that gets a cancer diagnosis, how to deal with their cancer. We deal with a person in prison and how to cope with their sentence while they are in prison. We are helping people every single day. These interpreters and translators are using a skill they enjoy, and they're helping people. I'm sure all of you have volunteered for some cause to clean up pollution or to provide soup in a soup kitchen for the homeless. We all love to help people. That's called the altruism within us. We need to be altruistic. It's a satisfying need in the human mind to help people. Well, to use a skill you like and to help people, those are 2 wonderful, satisfying elements of a good job. And the third one is you get paid for it. Think about this. You're actually helping people. You're using a skill you enjoy, and you get compensated for it. Anyone that can satisfy these 3 elements will have a satisfying professional career. So whether it's language services or it's some other profession, as long as you're using a skill you like, you're helping people, and obviously get compensated, you've succeeded in a profession. So I wanted to mention that because it doesn't just apply to language services, but in the context of this presentation, it does. But I want to leave you with the idea of when you look for a job, am I using a skill I enjoy? Am I helping people? Am I getting paid? That's what ends up staying with you as you progress through your profession. So a couple of things to think about. These are US-based statistics, but I'd like to share this anyway because the US is the largest economy in the world. The foreign language skills gap. 1 in 3 companies in the United States, 1 in 3 that actually uses language, that they need language services regularly. 1 in 3 still say they don't have enough language support. They have a language skills gap. So even though they are using it every day, they're still falling short. That's 33% of companies that already use language services, whether it's internal employees or they outsource it to language companies. And then 1 in 4, that's 25% of all American companies have lost business, means that they could not achieve what their goals were because of lack of foreign language skills. There are 1 in 4 companies, 1 in 3 companies that already use language services are still falling short. There's a big need for language professionals in our industry, and specifically in the United States, but any company in any country that does work internationally or deals with the community in a different language needs language services. So language services are present in every single country. So what can you do to prepare yourself? Now, this is just a snapshot. It's not designed for you to take any notes off this page, but I suggest you write this down. NIMSI is the name of the, let me put my mouse over here. So NIMSI is the name of an industry watchdog in our industry. And they have published something called the Language Technology Atlas. Okay. And this is a quick snapshot of the entire atlas. What you see on the screen right now are over 800 different pieces of software. 800. Everything from project management, scheduling management, subtitling management, AI translations, and the list goes on. If you were to work in language services, you're going to work in 1, 2, or 3, or 5 different pieces of software that's on this page. So there's, a large number of you students here today. Not all of you have the same interests. Some of you want to use your language skills. Some of you work better working with clients. Some of you want to work with numbers and work in accounting. You don't know what you may be drawn to once you start doing your job search. Or maybe you work initially at one company, and as you learn more about where you work, you might say, you know what, I like this job, but I want to try that because that seems to be more interesting to me. You don't know yourself yet. So you're going to spend your 20s slowly discovering your professional, what you're gravitating towards, what you lean towards, what you find interesting. And when you do that, you revert back to this picture and say, what softwares fall in that category, and start learning about those software. Just research them. What do they do? How do they work? Make yourself more valuable by learning these items of software just by doing traditional research. And you'll be surprised at how valuable that is. And I'll get back to the 25-year comment I made earlier. Why do some companies make it and some companies do not? And the reason is this technology that I'm showing you on the screen today was not available 25 years ago. It just wasn't. And I was, as a professional, trying to provide my clients with the best solution at the cheapest price for them. I have to keep investing in new technologies within my company that makes my staff's job easier, brings value to my customer, but the quality does not go down. And on here are a majority of the tools that I use. I don't use all 800. That's impossible. But at least a dozen of the tools on here we're using ourselves. So if I see an applicant coming to me with their resume and they have some of these language industry specific pieces of software, I will be very excited because I have a lot of people applying for jobs that have never worked in language services. And that's very common in the language world today. And they have to learn about it from us as opposed to having someone come in directly that has an education in language education. So with that, I believe that is my time. So with that, I yield back my time back to Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Gio. It's so exciting to think of a lot of details, a lot of opportunities, and the technology is key. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that. I already am seeing some questions in the chat. So we will not abandon you. We will talk about technology, I promise. But right now, we're going to ask Winnie Hay to come in and give us some other ideas. But I'd like to take a minute to give some personal information. We are an industry that knows each other and get to know each other, and we collaborate over lots of different periods of our time of our work. And there was a time when Winnie and I, we were both in companies, and we were involved with over the phone and telephone interpreting, and we were serious competitors. We would both go after the same opportunities, and we'd be competitors. And sometimes I won, sometimes she won, but here we are all these years later, working together to help students be prepared to come into our industry. I had to share that because, Winnie, it's so special. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your loyalty, your intelligence, your experience in both the academic side and in the company. You are my perfect bridge.
Thank you so much. That's such a beautiful introduction. I really appreciate it. I am going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen, Kathleen? Okay, great. Thank you, Gio. Thank you for letting me know. So my name is Winnie Hay, and I am delighted to be meeting with you for many reasons. First of all, I grew up near your time zone. I was born and raised in Taiwan. And also, when I was your age, I was an English major. So I just love it that I am able to be speaking with you today. And I have been working for a long time. I've been working for more than 30 years. And every time I have this opportunity to meet with the students, it gives me a chance to reflect on my own journey. And what's so gratifying for me is I was an English major, and I came to the United States to pursue a master's degree in translation and interpretation, with the plan of returning to Taiwan and becoming a conference interpreter. As fate would have it, I was offered a job to work for a startup, starting a remote interpretation company. I thought I would stay for 2 years, get to live in the US for 2 more years. Well, 2 years turned into 25. And also was just a very productive and gratifying 25 years. I got to do so many different things, met so many different people, traveled to so many different places. If you had told me that when I was your age that I would have a career in business and then I would go back to my alma mater and become a career advisor, I would not believe you. That was not what I was thinking. But here I am, right? I feel this is a beautiful full circle kind of a moment for me in my life to be able to work with young people and help them launch your careers into the industry that has given me so much. And so I would just like to start, kind of following up on what Giovanni was saying about the big industry. Let me share this list with you. The top 25 websites in the world support an average of 58 languages. I like the students to take a moment. There are 25 companies here. Can you just go through and start counting how many of these names that you actually recognize? I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I'm going to come back and ask you how many you recognize. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to go to chat, okay? If you are in chat, okay, well, somebody typed 24, 22. Okay, anybody else? 21, 22, 22, 6, 18. Okay, 22. Okay, 7, 22, 24. Okay, for the students in the room, raise your hand. I can see you. Raise your hand if you know more than 10 of these companies? Please raise your hand for the students in the room. Okay, raise your hand if you see more, if you recognize more than 20. Okay, I see some. Okay. And then, okay, keep coming on the chat. You know, how many, tell us how many you recognize. Okay, I see 23. So the bottom line is these are household names, right? You know a lot of these companies. And we may not think about it, but they all need to communicate in multiple languages. Let's just think about it. If we want to create a website in one language, it's pretty daunting. It's, you know, a lot of work, right? Picture you need to have more than 50 languages for your website. You have to take care of all the legal requirements. You have to make sure the language is correct. You have to make sure when you update your website in your core language, everything is updated correctly at the same time in all those different languages. Think about the number of people you need to be involved in that. Think about the complexity and the decisions you have to make, right? Okay, so then this ties back to what Gio was talking about, the size of the industry. All that work, and of course, there are many other aspects in the industry, contribute to the size of the industry, right? This is from NIMSY, 2024, the estimate is $72 billion, I'm sorry, billion. It starts with a B, not M. And then 2028, $95 billion, okay? And our industry started doing this in about, 2010, thereabout, right? And it has been growing. And so I always say to my students, if you're picking a career, it's better to go to a field where it's small but growing, rather than going to an industry that's big but declining. Okay. But the good news is for the language industry, it's big and it's growing. Okay. So I wanted to emphasize that point. Then Gio talked a little bit about this, right? Careers in the language industry go beyond translator, interpreter, or project management roles, okay? This is my personal experience. After working in the private sector, managing language companies for 25 years, I became a career advisor, helping students in master's programs in translation, interpretation, and localization management. And common sense taught me that when I started, I talk with every student and say, tell me about your career goals. What do you want to do after you graduate? And most of them say, oh, I want to be a translator. I want to be an interpreter. I want to be a project manager. Or I want to, go work at the UN. Then I said to myself, okay, I think we got a problem here. Because it's a big industry. There are so many different roles, right? I need to help my students see the diversity of the roles, okay? And that's why I created this graphic to show students, broadly speaking, and this does not give you every single job you're going to see in the industry, right? Okay, as you can see from my cursor here, right? On the translation side, you have different roles for translators. On the right-hand side, on the interpretation side, there are different modes of interpretation. And in any organization, when you have more than a small team of people, and Giovanni knows this, when you manage your own business, when you have a group of people, you need to start to have the infrastructure to manage them, right? So that's when we started to see the career path for language leads and vendor managers, right? Okay. At the same time, if you want to have grow your team, you need to have the infrastructure to recruit the talent, to test them, to train them, and to do QA for them, right? And going back to all those websites with that many languages, that's when you need project managers, project coordinators to make all those decisions day in and day out. to pull all those talents into the team to manage the complexity of the projects. And then once you have a few project managers, you're going to need program managers to manage them. Then you're going to need directors to manage the program managers. And you're going to need a VP to manage, those directors, right? And Giovanni talked about the technology, okay? Then we have some more technical jobs, desktop publishing, quality assurance engineering, localization engineering. You may think, wow, I'm studying language. Can I become an engineer? Absolutely, you can. I have students who have done it very successfully, okay? And then, in organizations, then you need to have individuals who can support the clients, who can go find the clients, and who can support them, right? Okay, who can work with them on different solutions. So this is just a depiction of the diversity of the different roles. And then Kathleen showed this, right? A few years later, my colleague Adam Wooden did something even better, right? Even more roles, okay? So that's the ecosystem. Now, then just looking at bigger picture, right? What are the different areas that you can work in? This graphic on the left is from NIMSY, depicting the market size of the different areas. But for you, I just want to point out the high level. On the right-hand side, translation and localization. Interpreting, dubbing, that's big business. Machine translation, post-editing. More and more work goes through machine translation. And we need humans to do quality assurance, to keep the machines honest, right? Subtitling, okay? Copywriting, right? We are seeing the need for language experts to write the copy in the target language. In some cases, translation is skipped. You do the writing in the target language, right? That's the publishing. If you are artistic, you like design, this may be you, right? Then Giovanni talked about language testing, right? Okay, that's another area. Data and AI services. This is a newer area, okay, but it's growing. Okay, so just high level, these are the big buckets that you can think about. Okay, then you may ask me, okay, I see the different opportunities, I see the growth. How do I get myself prepared? And of course, this can be a really long conversation because everybody's talent and needs and aspirations are different. But I'll summarize it into 3 big areas. I'll talk about the core skills, the technical tools you need to master, and the critical thinking you need. Okay, first of all, core skills. If you want to work in a language-related field, you need to have excellent command of your language pair. Okay, you may think, yeah, of course, if I want to be a translator or if I want to be an interpreter, I need to be excellent in my language pair. But your language skills need to be even better if in the future you need to work with machine translation. Machine translation has achieved a high level of fluency. Sometimes it's deceiving. Even some really excellent linguists will miss some of the mistakes that the machine can make. So in the future, we're going to need linguists with even higher level of language proficiency. Okay. The second area is cultural awareness. I'm a career advisor. I see job postings all day long. Okay. And when I see job postings for linguist roles, a very key area that employers are asking for is that you are up to date in the language and the culture of your language pair. So it's not just about knowing grammar really well. It's not just about having a big vocabulary. You also need to stay in touch with the cultures that you work with so that you are current. in the language and in the culture. So that's my third point. Be sure to stay up to date. Your education is not done when you get your degree. The next area, technical tools. Okay. We will see more and more automation. That's just the way, our civilization works. Okay. The path towards automation will continue. You're going to see more and more tasks to be automated, and you'll need to use software programs. Okay. So spend time to learn the workflow tools. Okay. For example, in translation, we have what we call CAT tools, computer-assisted translation. Okay. Get to know what that is and learn how to use it. I would say linguists for the future, knowing CAT tool is a basic requirement. Okay. Companies also use translation management systems. Okay. The days of people sending you a translation project by mail is gone. As a translator, you need to be able to go into a system to pull the files, to communicate with the various stakeholders, right? So be comfortable with technology. And that's one thing that, some of my students, language students, will say to me, I'm a language person, I'm not technical. Well, it's a requirement for the work of the future. Okay. Next, as computing power becomes more and more available, as AI becomes more and more powerful, we are going to have an abundance of data. Okay. More and more, we will need to be able to pull data, present data, and analyze data, including linguistic data. And again, I'll say, just like core skills, stay up to date. It's going to keep evolving. Okay. Then the critical thinking piece of it, okay, is really important that we linguists develop a critical eye for automated output. Just because it's coming out of the computer doesn't mean it's correct. Okay. Our ability to see the nuances, to see the unexpected mistakes becomes more and more important. And then finally, in terms of the critical thinking part of it, you will be working with teams, with employers, with clients. And as the world becomes more and more global, you will be working with businesses and partners in other countries. So your ability to understand how business is conducted becomes even more important for the future. Okay, so those are my high level view and sharing of how students can prepare themselves. And I would encourage you also, don't stop here. Talk with your professors, talk with your mentors, and craft your unique individual career plan. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Winnie. I always feel like I learn so much more each time I hear you speak. Excellent presentation. We're getting terrific response in the chat. And I'm feeling, Susie, that we should open up the room. I see so many good questions coming, and I'm anxious to start tackling them.
Thank you, Kathleen, Giovanni, and Winnie for sharing those valuable insights. It's fascinating to see how actually the companies and the job opportunities laid out there and so many to choose from. So we all need to, as students and also as beginner professional, we need to think about how we can prepare ourselves with those tips that you just gave. So now for the for the Q&A session, I see that in the chat, there's a question. It's not specifically addressed to one of you, so you can answer. It says that there's a concern with the ghosting. It means that, like applicants apply for jobs for translation or interpreting, and then they were given tests and they went through all those requirements, and then suddenly they didn't hear back from the companies. So what
I'm
is
going to ask Gio to please take that one first, please.
okay? Go ahead,
Okay.
dear.
I would first like to say that I absolutely hate it when the language industry looks badly and treats its own this poorly. I do not agree with that practice. But first of all, let me give you some perspective of how I work, and then I'll talk about this issue specifically. So in our company at the Language Group and English Business, we have a motto: respond to every communication. We've had people call us, say, "Hi, are you the mechanic?" We're like, "No, you've called the wrong company. We're the Language Group." But instead of hanging up, say, "Well, what mechanic were you looking for?" And we look them up, say, "Here's the phone number you want to dial, not this number." You never hang up without helping that person, ever. That is just a practice, and it turns your mind into wanting to help at all times. You're all your servants. Okay. That being said, when we have candidates, first of all, we have a post that we are recruiting interpreters for this language combination, or recruiting translators or QA or DTP for a certain project. If we end up testing them, and what's happening is that particular project manager or recruiter may have a quota. They have to staff a certain project. They satisfy that need. They get the candidates they need, and they hand those candidates off to the project manager to start the projects that they need to work on. Well, while they're doing that, there's still other candidates going through the testing. A proper company should respond to every single candidate that was not given this project. Say, "I'm sorry, we already staffed for this project. We have your information. You've passed all of our tests. We'll let you know the next time a project comes up." It's literally a 2 or 3 line email that we always need to close the communication loop at all times. We do that. Now, about 10 years ago, there was this concern in the language industry with fake language companies notifying clients that they could translate, and they would use somehow they get their hands on some fake test results from other applicants and use them as proof that they had linguists, and get customers to pay them before they provided services, and then they never provided those services. So there is some piracy in our industry as well that we are trying to control. And I don't know if your applicants have experienced these negative experiences with legitimate language companies or falsified language companies. So that's one thing you have to be careful, just like when you check your inbox for possible spam or piracy, Trojan horse type emails. You have the same issue with language companies that might not be real or reputable. So it's up to you when you apply for job opportunities to vet that company, see if there are any public lists, talk to someone human, see if you feel like they're a proper company if you've never heard of them. I mean, Winnie just showed your students the 25 most common companies in the world, and some students only knew 6 of them, which tells me then they may not know the name of the top 20 language companies in the world. So I would like to say that if you don't get a response from a language company after you've gone the entire recruitment process, you've taken tests, you've spent time, I would suggest you email them and you call them until you get an answer. So in essence, you're selling yourself. You're applying for a job. When I sell my company services to a prospect, to a potential client, and they don't respond back to me, I'm going to keep calling. I was like, "Are you using another company? If you are, just let me know. We'll stop calling you." But I need to know, because I've spent hours of my time invested in getting your business, and now you're not calling me back. Why are you ghosting me? "Oh, I'm sorry, I've been busy. I lost your email," whatever. So send an email once every 3 days. what's going on? You were so to hurry to get my information and make me take this test, and now I don't hear from you. So I put it on the student to say, if you get ghosted, follow up and follow up. Yes, it is soul crushing. I hate to say it. I hate it because when clients don't get back to me, it's a personal attack on yourself. You feel like you did something wrong. You did not do anything wrong. It's the person you're working with is not organized. And I hate that people in our profession are not disorganized. So I'm apologizing on behalf of the entire industry. You should never be ghosted. But I also put it on you to please follow up at least for 3 weeks, just until you hear from them.
Thank you, Gio. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have so many more questions coming. So Susie, if you'd like to give us another two.
Yes. There's one actually that posted the questions in the beginning about cat tools.
Yes.
Which one is actually you recommend for this person? His name is Jain Jauhari, bachelor degree international relations. So first question he said that how can I start in the language industry, and how important to know the cat tools. I think some of this have been discussed by you, and then what if you can recommend a name of any cat tool?
I'll give my perspective, okay? And first of all, I don't have any commercial interest in any company. I can just say that from my own observation, Trados seems at this point is the one that is most widely used. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's perhaps has been in the market the longest, so it's widely used. Another thing I'd like you to remember, okay? Just learn one, okay? And then when you use another cat tool, you will learn faster, okay? Some clients have their own internal system. So don't be hung up, don't be hung up on, oh, I have to learn the right one, okay? Learn a reputable one, like a Trados. Then you're gonna find that you encounter other cat tools, you're gonna learn really fast because the concept is the same, okay? For those of you who are taking translation classes, here's my pitch to you, okay? When your professors give you a translation assignment, don't pull out a Google Doc, don't pull out a Microsoft Word. Translate in Trados or something like Trados, okay? Really, really know the tool from your actual practice. Don't understand it at the intellectual level. It really will make a difference if you really know the tool that way.
Thank you, Winnie. Did you want to make a comment, Gio?
I just wrote down 3 popular tools, cat tools. Trados, of course, MemSource and MemoQ. They all work very similarly. Some are web-based, some are desktop-based. But the idea is they all have similar functionality. For example, back when I was in school, they had just introduced a software called WordPerfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then after WordPerfect, Microsoft Word came out, and you're like, oh my God, it's better, but it's the same. So please, they're all different software, but they have the same foundational understanding of how translation works. So see which one maybe has a free license you can use. I'm sure Winnie has better understanding of how you can get access to them and how to use them, and research them. But those are the top 3 I would recommend. XTM is okay, but I would recommend those 3.
Maybe the professors can reach out to them and see if you can get some kind of institutional package that's free or at a discounted rate. I will tell you from my students who use all 3, they tell me they think MemoQ is more intuitive. From a user interface perspective, it's more intuitive, more user-friendly. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what we use, by the way. We use MemoQ in-house.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. They had a very large booth presentation at ATA, and they seem very friendly.
They are.
As salespeople.
Right.
Any more other questions, Susie? I see some.
M. Arif He raised his hand.
Yes,
Yes.
hand is raised. Yep.
You can ask question, Arifki.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry if it's a bit noisy in my house. Thank you, Miss Kathleen, Miss Winnie, and Mr. Giovanni for giving us this information. I would like to ask two questions, if permitted. The first question is, I've worked independently with a friend and other colleagues to have some copyrighted work, but it's, I guess, a beginner or novice level of work. My question is, how do you know your value in this line of work in comparison languages? Because some people have very much a high level of skill, but have lower value. Certainly in this country, Indonesia, the language interpreter is not highly valuable yet, but it's slowly growing. So that's my first question, is how do you know your value? The second question is, there's a lot of career path, especially when Miss Kathleen and Miss Winnie show both of those graphs, how there's a lot of more possibility than the average editor or copywriter or interpreter. That's kind of the big problem, especially in my university in UPI. There's a lot of young people that are excited to work in languages, but there's no example yet in my university or campus, or we have not known that information yet. So we all have the energy to start, but we don't know what we are capable of yet. So is there a test or an intuition that we are more prone to, let's say, translation, we have human connection? My question is basically is, how do we know where we fit in those graphs? Like, because people have different skill, like communication, we work better with computers. Which one are we? That's my question. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to start trying to answer your two very interesting and complex questions. The first one, value. How do you know your value? It is exactly the same challenge we've had in the United States. This is a country that is very sort of basically monolingual and doesn't really understand the value of language. Tonight you have three speakers that just all of us share the fact that we were blessed with being able to have access to two languages from birth. I didn't tell you much about my story, but I learned my Spanish because my parents worked for the airlines, Pan Am, in those days. And I spent my entire childhood, my entire youth in the Caribbean and Latin America. So I learned Spanish and English simultaneously. And I always thought that that was the natural thing for humans to do until I would go back to the United States. Every 3 years, we went back to the United States and to see the cousins and the grandparents and everything. And they were all just kind of stupid. They just only knew one language. And so when I came to be a professional in the United States, I had to reckon with it. You know, how can I explain that there's value and that I'm not just a silly thing? I'm actually, I think, more equipped to handle the world because my brain can work in different ways and solve problems in different ways. And I think that we've worked hard. One of the things that we've done, the three of us have worked in our professions hard to get the message across to our translators and our interpreters. Think of yourself as a professional. We are building a profession. So we've worked hard on the standards. So many of the acronyms that Susie had to read about my bio have to do with developing standards of language proficiency, language testing, language translation, interpreting, so that the open marketplace begins to see us as professionals. So it's work that you have to do. You have to see yourself first as the translator and the interpreter as a professional, and then communicate that throughout your community and do it over and over and over again until somebody comes up and says, oh, you're a professional. I need a professional. So that's the kind of the first question, difficult one. I don't know, Winnie, Gio, whether you wanted to add anything to the first question about value.
I have something I could add.
Go for it.
When presented with the question from a potential employer or a potential client, because you may be an independent contractor and they're hiring you for a language project or a short duration, and they give you a price. Oh, this is what we want to offer you. That's a starting point for negotiation. Okay, even though they say, oh, I can't do this, you can say, here's my professional background and my counter that I tell my linguists, whatever they tell you, counter with more than 10%, go up 10% and stop there. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, if you counter with X plus 10%, is that enough for you? It might not be. Like, it's still too low for me. I can't just counter with, I need twice what they're offering. They won't give you twice. But I think the first response is, you're a professional, as Kathleen says. We are a professional industry, but we're paid like we're not a professional industry, and we're fighting to change that, at least in the United States. In Europe, it's a little bit more considered more a profession, and a profession has professional designations and salary tied to that. But I would counter with 10%. Just say, whatever you're offering, thank you. Can you please add 10%? Here's what I would like. Usually that's within their budget window and they would probably accept it. But then you have to say if that's worth your time, because it still might be too low for you. That's my only counter at the moment. And you have a second question about career path. I'll give it back to Kathleen and Winnie about that. And I'll add a couple cents to that as well.
I'll jump in first, if I may, Winnie, and then to you. Well, you see, it's such a really wonderful question, because we're offering you so many different options. Now, when I was coming out with my master's degree in French literature, I really had teaching, or I could be a teacher, or I could be a professor, or I could be a teacher. There were very few other options that I could see, or that any of my professors or any of my mentors suggested for me. So I tried to be a teacher in my language, and I couldn't get any jobs. So I wasn't very successful. So I began doing some tutoring and taking private students and working with private students. And that gave me the idea of maybe I could do something maybe a little bit better than the company that in those days was the big commercial language company, and that was Berlitz, and I could work for them. So I went to work for them, and they offered me so little money, and I saw that they were charging so much more money to the student, that I became an entrepreneur. I know I'm simplifying it, but it's truly, it was the catalyst for me. I wanted to understand, how is it? What happens to the money between what they're paying me and what they're charging the student? And I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I became one. So I guess my answer to your question is, you won't always know what your skill, what's going to feel most comfortable for you in this industry. You have to try something, and then see if that fits, and if that doesn't, you like I love Winnie's lily pods, I call them, because you're literally moving around according to your own professional growth, in addition to finding the skills that you like the best and where you fit the best. So I'm sure, Winnie, you can add a few thoughts too.
Yeah. So, the question of, how do I know where's my fit? How do I know if I should be a translator or interpreter or any other role, right? I think my response is, knowledge is power. And I think it is in that spirit that Kathleen, Giovanni, and your professors and I put together this session. We want to present to you the information that's out there for you to explore. I haven't, personally, I have not come across a test that you can take and it's going to tell you, oh, Kathleen, you are the T track. Giovanni, you are the I track, right? There's no test that would tell you that. But I think the fun part is that you get to explore, right? And, I'm going to share my screen and show you a resource that I created for my students as an example, okay? Not to, prescribe what it should look like, but, you remember seeing this ecosystem. And what I did was I collected a list of 50 plus job titles. These are real job titles, not from my own dream, okay? These are real job titles in our industry. And I designed it so that, for example, I click on Director of Globalization. I have a brief job description and the skills, and I included the links to real people. So you can go look at this Anna Schlegel, by the way, my good friend, right? Go look at her profile and say, oh, she was a German major. Oh, she started her own company. And this, you can see how these different people navigated. And so I think you'll find out is you're not alone. They explored, right? And so it's your turn to explore. But the good news is you have some information that you can use as a starting point to explore. There are some real people who have done what you're thinking about doing.
That is so great. And Winnie has been so grand, as she said, she is a member of the ALC Bridge committee. And on the front page, the very front page of the website, you'll be able to scroll down and see jobs. And it's the work that Winnie has done. So you see the job and the job title, and then the job description as well. I don't think we have your friends on there though, Winnie, at least last time I looked. But that's beautiful to be able to see a human being and match it up. So thank you for that.
And I think another good thing is, as we have more technology, we have AI, there are new job titles that I'm going to be adding.
No question.
Okay. That's the beauty of it.
That's exactly right. We cannot limit what we suggest to you today because things are being created as we speak.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the response. I know that we have a little bit over the time, but we started a little bit late. I hope you don't mind if we have one more question. Okay.
Well,
we have questions from the room. You can.
Can you hear me? Hello?
yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Firstly, I would like to thank Mr. Eri and Ms. Susi for organizing this webinar. And I would like to thank our speaker, Mrs. Kathleen, Mr. Giovanni, and Mrs. Winnie for their insightful experience in this line of work. So, but before I ask my question, I would like to give a background. So, I've seen in social media and personal friends that are artists that have anxieties about AI. First, because of its unethical use of, how to train their models, by stolen artwork, etc., etc. And then two, it's getting better and better, it's evolving at an exponential rate. It's getting better and cheaper in the future. So I think I can relate this to my experience because, most people now use AI for translating. So my question is for our speaker here, excuse me, what's your personal opinion on AI, on machine translation? In your line of work, does it affect your job negatively or enhance it? And maybe for Mrs. Winnie, do you have any experience that from these AI companies that approach you for your services to train their AI models? Or in other words, what's the process to train a machine translation? Thank you.
Oh, terrific questions. Winnie, since you've been mentioned, please take the first.
Okay, so I think there have been increased demand for people like data and doing data annotation kind of work, okay, or doing QA work. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, I came across a new job title called AI tutor. Okay, it's training AI, right? So it is happening, and I think it's going to the volume will increase because there will be new subject matters, there will be new needs. So I hope that answers your question. Oh, and then you're concerned about unethical use, and I think that's the issue that the whole world is grappling with. Kind of how do we set up the guardrails? And in fact, the CEOs of big AI companies are asking, at least in the US, asking the governments to regulate, right? Because of concerns about its use. So I think I certainly don't have a crystal ball. I think it's going to evolve over time. But what I can say is I'm seeing new kinds of needs for the professionals.
Absolutely. Thank you, Winnie. Gio, I know you'd like to say a word or two.
I do. So first of all, the ethical use of AI. So let's be clear on this. Most people that use an AI unethically, they don't even realize they're using it unethically. It's usually the client, not the language company. But let's not say Google, but let's say a company that says, oh, I got this video and I need to translate it in 13 languages. Let me just use AI. Okay. A lot of times what you end up finding is companies do this all the time. 20 years ago is Google Translate. Actually, I think Google Translate was released in 2010, so it's more like 14 years ago. Google Translate comes out, and now these companies say, we don't have to use a translation service. Let's use Google Translate. And they do for a while. And then they stop and they go back to our company services. Why? Because something went wrong. Most of these companies, these large companies that need language services, they try to find it's called the path of least resistance. They try to find a quick solution that they think solves their problem, but what they're doing, they're creating a new problem. The new problem is called risk exposure. What that means is they use a tool, they don't know how it works. They translate something, and what they're translating, they don't realize they're translating incorrectly because they don't have a QA person to evaluate the target language. And then they publish this target document. And then they realize, oh, something was wrong because their goal wasn't achieved, whether they mistranslated something for a media campaign and all of a sudden they received some negative backlash. Or maybe it was a legal document and the target language was incorrect and now they're exposed to legal exposure, legal risk. Only when that happens do we get the phone call saying, employee X used AI translate instead of using you. Can you please save us? So what happens is I can't control my clients to say, don't use AI, let us use AI. So let's talk about the ethical use of AI. For example, we talked about fluency testing. Well, the traditional way of doing fluency testing is you as an interpreter would sit down and speak with a trained person fluent in that language. You would have a conversation and they would ask you unique questions like, can you please describe how to articulate what something smells like? And you have to use your unique language skills to explain how fluent you are in that language. That's the traditional way. Nowadays, there's AI tools to test your fluency. My company uses these AI tools, but they're just a barrier. Like if you pass that, then you graduate to the next level, which is more of a human-assisted test. So AI tools are used responsibly for us to make you pass a certain minimum requirement to jump into the next level of recruiting. Also, AI is used in translation. For example, we use called translation memory, which is pre-translated text that's already been vetted by humans. We apply it to a document. What's left, AI translates, and then we have a human being cleaning up the translation and then training the AI. That way the AI knows it next time. We train the TM and then we also train the AI with a TM. A human has to do all that. So and the thing is, today, we don't need AI experts. We need language experts to use the AI tool. So you're in the right position. And as you see these new job postings that say AI tutor, for example, you would be qualified because you're trying to train the AI on a language that you know. The AI doesn't know that language yet, or doesn't know it well yet. So also in the world of AI translation, only about 4 or 5 languages are really in this upper 70 to 80% accurate. There's hundreds of languages that AI hasn't really been used with or tested. So we only use AI for our top languages our clients need. The rest are done traditionally. So please understand the unethical use of AI is not done by language companies, done by the end users that feel like they can cut corners and save on budget. But inevitably they come back because they don't know how to use those tools correctly. So it's up to us, the language company, to know how to use AI well. We need linguists for that. So that's where I feel we're still in a controlling position here. And the linguists and the students learning that language have opportunities, but it won't be like a traditional linguist or a teacher, as Kathleen said. It'll be training AI. We never thought this position would be available 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. So I hope that gives you some hope as to where your future may be directed.
Absolutely. And I think our message has got to be loud and clear, and that is that we are the humans and we must be in the controlling position.
Correct.
All right. I guess we have to conclude the session. Thank you, everyone, for such a lively Q&A session and all the thoughtful questions and also the responses from the speakers. Hope all of you found today's discussion insightful and informative. A big thank you to our stellar speakers.
Thank you. Our pleasure, our honor.
Yeah, Kathleen,
Thank you.
Gio, Donatelli, and Winnie for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. We truly appreciate your time and insights. So I want to remind everyone that the recording will be available, right, Kathleen, in the ALC Bridge website,
Yes.
lcbridge.org/page/webinar recording, as you shown earlier. You can all visit the website afterwards for any updates and resources. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susi.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.